Thanks, Bobby. I guess most of you have heard of Ray Smith, or you probably wouldn't be here. Who was Ray Smith? Well, you take a little bit of Dean Martin, you take a little bit of Jerry Lee Lewis, a little bit of Elvis, a little bit of Carl Perkins, a little bit of Johnny Cash. You put them all in a pot, and you stir them up real good. You put them in the oven. You turn the oven up to about 400 degrees. Bake it for 2.5 hours. You take it out, pour a little salt on it, pour a little pepper on it, pour lots of Tabasco sauce on it. You got Rockin' Ray Smith. The best entertainer that I have ever seen. And most people that I talk to agree with that. Ray Smith, the Rockin' Little Angel, he was inducted as number 33 out of 390 in the Rockabilly Hall of Fame. Stanley Walker is number 327, so as you can see, we don't have very many after Stanley was inducted. They're not inducting very many right now. This is some of the album covers and some of the promos that you'll see around if you get on the internet. There's a picture of Ray in the early years. He was born Raymond Eugene Smith on October 30th, 1934, on County Line Road in Melbourne, Kentucky. His parents were James H. Smith and Essie A. Smith. Essie died at a pretty young age. She was in her 50s. The siblings are Carlene, Eva Mae, Catherine, Genevieve, Dorothy, James, and Joanne. And we're very fortunate tonight to have Joanne sitting here in the second row. Ray's father was a sharecropper and sheet metal worker, and he moved the family several times. They moved from Melbourne to Sandy Point on Clinton Road, and they lived on Highway 45, old Highway 45, in two different places. Then they went to Bonds across the street from Bonds on 45. Later to Potter's Farm over on Highland Church Road. And the last place they lived was across Cairo Road on Maplewood Terrace towards 8th Street. And that's when Ray left home and went to the military. Now, later, Joanne told me that they found out that Ray had bought his father and stepmother a house on Cairo Road. Ray attended Melbourne schools through 3rd grade and Lone Oak from 4th through 8th grade. He worked on the Coca-Cola truck, tended ovens at Kirchhoff's. He car hopped at Price's, so if you got a hamburger or hot dog at Price's years ago, Ray might have been your car hop. I hope you tipped him because you probably helped him buy a guitar or two. He rode with his brother-in-law, Lewis Page, on his moonshine runs, but I don't think he was with Lewis when Lewis had a wreck and spilled whiskey all over the roads in downtown Paducah. He tacked soles at the International Shoe Company. He carried newspapers and delivered Western Union telegrams. Now, Joanne told me that she and Ray took piano lessons when they were younger, but Ray skipped most of these. Ray joined the Air Force in 1952. He took his basic training in New York, went back to Fort Knox, and he and Lily Mae got married. And then they moved to California. He served 4 years active duty and 4 years in the reserves and was discharged with honors. This is a nice little story here. Ray started his music career in his boxer shorts. I didn't start mine that way. I started mine with a phone call from Dwayne the Brain. But it seems that Ray Sargent was looking for somebody to perform in the talent contest in the Air Force in California. Well, all the guys seemed to think that Ray was the best singer of all of them. So Ray was coming out of the shower in his boxer shorts, and the sergeant said, "Okay, Smith, sing." So Ray sang Lovesick Blues. He said, "Okay, you're in the talent contest." Ray won, and that, he said in later years, influenced him to go into the music business because he liked it so much. Here are some of his 45 covers. There are tons of those. This is Mr. and Mrs. Raymond Eugene and Lily Mae Kidd Smith in 1952. They were married. Lily Mae grew up over on Snyderman Road. Ray was 18 years old. Lily Mae was sweet 16 when they were married. Later, they had 3 children. They had Roger, Sheila, and Johnny. Roger's the oldest. There's a picture of them at home on Lackey Street, and I'm just, Charlie, it has to be a Cadillac, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. And there's Lily with Roger, Sheila, and Johnny. And here's another picture of Ray and Lily and Ray Jr. Ray Jr. came along later after the other 3 children were born. Here's the house on Lackey Street that Ray and Lily lived in from about 1959 through 1970 when they moved to Canada. And that's not Ray's truck, by the way. I couldn't get over there and get a picture without that truck being in the front of it. Here's Ray and his brother James. Ray and his son Roger. And they're performing in Canada. Roger actually sang backup with Ray, and he played the congas in the band. I love this one. This is Ray and Lily singing together in a club in Canada. That's a precious picture right there. Here's some pictures of Ray, and if you ever saw Ray Smith, you would have to know that you'd seen these poses. The one up there on the left, with him stomping on the piano, standing on the stool. The one on the bottom with that sole of his foot sticking up, where he was playing the piano with his heel. And then up in the right, that I just thought that was, what was the one I was saying, not Traveling Salesman, but the other one. Rockin' Bandit. Thanks, Jim. His first paying gig was at North Desert Inn in Barstow, California. His band members were Winifred Lee Stanford, Chuck Brandon, and playing steel guitar, believe it or not, was Slim Whitman's brother. This is 1956. As soon as Ray got out of the Air Force active duty, he came back. He and Lily Mae came back home. He formed the Rock and Roll Boys. And this picture is from a radio show at WMOK. And there's Ray, there's James Webb, Dean Perkins, and I think Dean later on played a little bass with Ray. There's Raymond Jones and Henry Stevens. Here's a picture. I never knew that Ray had an accordion in his band, and that was unusual. Now, over on the right, if I'm not mistaken, that's Jerry Cothran playing that bass. And he's playing one of those old Sears Dan Electro basses. When he played with us, he played a Gibson 335.
Looks like Gene Wood.
Who is it?
Dean Perkins. That's Dean
That's
Perkins.
Dean? Okay. Well, Dean Perkins is playing the old silver tone.
That's what that is, yeah.
Okay, I got that right. Looks just like Jerry. Maybe Ray hired all his bass players to look alike. You look like them. The venues he played, the early gigs were the skating rinks, drive-in theaters, civic centers, and play parties. Some of you people who went to some of Ray's functions call those play parties. And we call them dance parties when we played the civic centers. He played American Bandstand. In his later gigs, he played Las Vegas and Hollywood showrooms. He played Canadian music lounges and clubs, European stage shows. He played the St. Louis Ballroom for the Cardinals one time, and he played the Gator Band. Now this is something that is really interesting. At one time in Las Vegas, Ray got $5,000 a show. Wayne Newton got $1,200. And here are some of the band members. We've already talked about the first two, but I'm just going to go through some of the players that played with Ray through the years. Johnny Forsythe played drums. Johnny's here tonight. Stanley Walker, he's here. Keith Baumgartner's here. Dave Defoe, Roger Smith, Dean Perkins, Bobby Bland, Jerry Cawthron, Bobby Keeling. I talked to Jerry Cawthron the other night, and Jerry would like to be here, but he's not going to make it. This is an interesting story. Do you all remember Cecil Strong? Remember Cecil? Cecil used to ride his little moped, and he'd get it running, and then he'd jump on it and take off. He was in our Boy Scout troop, and my dad used to take us home, and I thought he was going to have a wreck. By the time we get home, Cecil would have him in stitches. I mean, he was one of the funniest guys I've ever known. Well, Ray took him to Las Vegas and to Canada with him, and the so-called guys in Las Vegas told Ray that he couldn't use him anymore because he was upstaging him. Because Cecil would stand on his head and sing. Of course, Ray had been known to hang from the rafters upside down and sing too, so he couldn't say anything. But Wayne Newton said, if Cecil can't go on with Ray Smith, he's going on with me. And he put him on the stage with him. Where's Ray there? Come on, y'all. Look at those old wall panels back there. This is New Year's '65, and this is some composites I've got, and there's some faux pas in this, if you will. Look at this one. The drummer's got his drum. The name of the band, 90 degrees from what it should have been. Either that or his drum rolled over, I don't know which. And then look at this little Cub Scout drinking a knee high. And it looks like Ray's looking at him and singing to him. So, and this is probably the first picture I've seen of you and Ray together. You were just a kid then, Stanley.
Looked like he's 12 years old.
Yep. Stanley still looks 12 years old. Here's some shots here. And up the top, that's Ray being Ray. He's goofing around. And they're standing on the guitar, standing with that drum that's cockeyed there. And then in the bottom right, I want you to look. Ray's playing with a banjo. I never knew Ray to play a banjo, or to have a banjo in his band. So now we find he has an accordion, a banjo, and a guy that stands on his head to sing. Here are just some shots. That's Ray down in the corner being Ray. There's a Cabana Club advertisement there. And there's Stanley on the left. If any guitar player in here besides Stanley can tell me what chord he's recording, Stanley tunes his guitar at open E, and nobody else can play it. And I found that out the hard way at the Nocturne Club when I asked Stanley to try to play his guitar, and I picked it up and he laughed at me when I was trying to tune it. Their recording career, here's up the top there's London Records new releases, and there's Ray Smith, Rockin' Little Angel, and That's All Right. And then there's their bust that Charlie bought from Jerry Lee Lewis and had painted, and that they used for quite a while. We'll tell you some stories about that later. And down there on the lower right is something that I didn't know even existed. They even have some sheet music of Rockin' Little Angel. So there's Mr. Charlie Terrell. He's a businessman from Sikeston, Missouri, and Ray's manager for 15 years. Now, how did Ray start recording? How did he start his recording career? Well, it seems that Charlie saw him on WPSD TV on his show, and he called Ray at the station. Ray answered the phone. Charlie said, "You want a manager or you want a recording contract?" And Ray said, "Well, maybe." So he drove to Ray's house, and Ray wasn't there, so Charlie drove all around Paducah. So he drives back and he sits in the driveway, and Ray finally comes in. So Charlie asked him if he could, he said, "If I can get you a contract with a leading label, will you sign me as your manager?" And Ray said, "Yeah." 3 days later, Charlie came back with a signed contract with Ray for Sun Records. Now keep in mind, this is Sam Phillips, who has signed Elvis. He has signed Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, Jerry Lee Lewis. He signs Ray Smith without ever hearing Ray, without ever hearing a tape of Ray. He didn't know who he was. He signed him to a record contract because he knew Charlie. And here is an article out of the newspaper. Joanne, that must have been in Flatwoods, Kentucky, where you were living at the time.
It was.
That's an article
My
about Ray
sister and
signing.
I paid, put it in the paper.
Here are some of the labels that he recorded for. I'm not going through the whole discography. For Ray, he recorded for Sun, Judd, Infinity, Smash, Warner, DJ, Tolly, which is a subsidiary of DJ, BC, that was owned by Charlie Terrell and Bill Lowry, Celebrity Circle, Diamond, Cinnamon, Corona, Chevrolet, Wix, Rock House, and other labels such as London and Bear Records. Now, he didn't go in the studio with all these labels. Some of them were re-releases, because that happens quite often. But you'll find, if you search the internet for Rockin' Ray, you'll find all kinds of labels that he's owned. And you'll find some pirated ones too, some knockoffs. This is the Traveling with Ray album, cover and album that was put out by Judd. Here is something that I would suggest that everybody buy. This is the 34 cuts of Sun plus Rockin' Little Angel, and this is Ray Smith, Rockin' Little Angel, the Sun Years Plus. And this was put out by Bear Records in Germany. And this has got 34 wonderful songs on it. And inside is a whole history of Ray Smith and an interview by Ray for the Rockabilly Hall of Fame. And it's very interesting. Here's something I picked up at Speaks Jewelry back in the 70s. I was a scavenger. I'd go into pawn shops looking for guitars. And I know Billy's done that too. So he just happened to have this on the counter, and I picked it up and put it in the file back in the 70s. I've still got it. And this was, Corona Records was formed by A. McClintock and Joe Speaks. And their first artist that they signed was our policeman, Eddie Dunlap, which most of you may know. And his son, Eddie Jr., is a steel guitar player. He's one of the sessions players down in Nashville now. Here's a Western Union telegraph. And this was sent August 3rd, 1962, and it's a Smash Records telegram. And it was sent to Charlie by Shelby Singleton, and I'm going to read it to you. Ray Smith session booked for 10 a.m. August 14th. Please make sure Ray is in Nashville on August 13th. Shelby Singleton for the recording session. Here's a contract that I'm not going to blow up any bigger, but I'll tell you, it's a GC Recording Company contract, and this company was owned by Howard Hughes Tool and Die Company in Beverly Hills. Oh no, I misspelled Beverly Hills. Keith, Joanne caught me the other day. I'd spelled your name instead of Keith Baumgartner. I'd spelled it Keith Bombardier.
I don't know what that means.
The first year of this contract was for $100,000 and 8% royalties for two 45 RPM records that had 4 songs, 2 on each cut. And as Charlie told me, they had no idea how many these sold because the distributors never kept good records. So that 8%, you never know what you got. The second year was for $200,000, and CG did not renew that contract. Here is some recording artist, Rockin Ray Smith, under the management of Charlie Terrell, Saxton, Missouri. Look at that coat. Look at that coat. That coat was made by Joanne Terrell's aunt, as well as the guitar strap for Ray. And it's right over there on that easel. We have it here tonight, thanks to Steve Lester.
Yes, sir, buddy.
Steve Lester is what you would call a rock and roll nut. And he's so young, you wouldn't think he would be, but he has a museum of rock and roll stuff. And if it weren't for Steve, I don't know what I would have done. Now, Ray went to Canada to perform. Why did he go to Canada? Well, Conway Twitty had paved the way for the rockabilly guys in Canada. And then Conway enticed Marvel Phelps to go up there and perform also. It seems that Norval and Ray had been friends since the drive-in theater days. I'll tell you a little story about that. Norval was supposed to play one of the drive-ins. It might have been the South Twin, because they had the rock and roll bands to play before they showed the movies sometimes. When Norval raised his trunk, his guitar amp went in there, he left them at home. So they called Ray, and Ray brought him his, and they were friends after that. So anyway, Norval called Charlie, and Charlie sent a tape of Ray to Harold Cutlass, and Ray was hired for the Canada circuit. And his first gig in Canada was the Brass Rail in London, Ontario. We had a brass rail here that I played it in. What do you think about that one? And Ray continued to play Canada, Vegas, Hollywood, and other venues in the States. And he would come home, he'd play the Cabana Club and play around. Charlie retired from managing Ray in 1973. Charlie told me he was just worn out, and I can understand why. That was just a lot of work. And then around 1970, Ray and Lily moved to Canada, and they moved up there permanently. Now, the last recordings that Ray did, Tommy Wicks in Joliet, Illinois, was president of Ray's fan club. And she and her husband, Howard, wanted to promote Ray's records. So they got him back in the studio. And they did a record, it'll be the second one down there, called I'm Gonna Rock Some More. And they recorded it September 10th, 1978. And later, after Ray's death, it was released as the complete Wicks sessions of Ray Smith. And they took out the backup singing, and they actually had all the talking on the cuts, or most of the talking on the cuts. And it's a pretty raw recording of what they did in the studio. And then Wicks also put out Live in '62 in about 1981, and that was the New Year's Eve show at the Paducah J.C. Civic Center. And Dwayne the Brain, that's here with us tonight, was the MC for that. So if you get a copy of that, folks, you've got something. I was too young to be there. So. Tommy also booked Ray in Europe, and he recorded live at the Rock House in Holland. And that was released as a live recording on Rock House label in 1979. All right, this is the sad part. Sadly, on November 29, 1979, Ray took his own life. And they had a memorial service for him in Burlington, which the obit is on the right. And then they brought his body back to Paducah, to Lindsay's. And Lindsay's also had a memorial service. And then he's buried in Memorial Gardens out Highway 45. and this is Ray's marker. It says Raymond Eugene Smith, 82C, U.S. Air Force, October 30, 1934, November 29, 1979. And he's buried right beside his mother and father. Now, if you want to go out to the grave, you go out Old Highway 45, you go past St. John's, and you turn into Memorial Gardens, and there's a triangle, like an island there as you go in. There to your left, there are 3 trees on the right. Stop at the 3rd tree and look about 15 feet out and you see this little American flag, and that's where Ray's buried. It's really easy to find. And if you'd like to go out and leave a flower sometime, I think that would probably be appreciated. Here are a few candid shots. Now this is the TV mirror, and Jack Parr's on the front. When you turn inside, you see where I've got that outline? That is a story about Elvis Presley. And I think most of you can see this, but I'm going to read it. It says, most of the living at Graceland, however, is confined to a few rooms. The den is the scene of most of Elvis's informal get-togethers. That's where he has his record player and the new pool table he uses constantly. In the way of records, Elvis leans toward current singles. Among those most played during the first days of his return was this by Billy Ward and the Dominoes and Rockin' Ray Smith. So Elvis was a Rockin' Ray fan. Elvis could beat Ray at pool, pool could beat Elvis at darts. So, it's kind of a standoff there. This is Ray and Cowboy Jack Clement, and he was the A&R man at Sun Records. And Cowboy Jack went to Nashville and eventually started Jack Clement's studio. There's Howard and Tommy Wicks. Tommy was the head of the fan club, and they're the ones that started the Wicks label. And they were real close to Ray, both of them. Here's a picture of Ray, Lily, and Judd Phillips. Now, when you look on the Judd label, it's misnamed J-U-D-D. I think when they did the first press, they added the extra D. But Judd was the one who put out Rockin' Little Angel. There's Ray, Lily, and Howard Wicks up in Canada. Here's Ray, Del Reeves, Narvell Phelps. And we have no idea who that other guy is. Anybody know who he is? Oni Wheeler? Okay. Charlie Oni Wheeler was your first signee one of the books, right? Okay. Here's a picture. Nobody knows where it came from either. So we think maybe it's either a promo, but most likely Ray talked somebody into letting him drive his race car. Stanley, this is the car you always wish you were in when you were with Ray instead of a Cadillac. This is a promo picture of Ray. He did some wonderful pictures. I like that one. Look at those shoes, aren't those pretty? Here's Ray, Lily, and the Killer, Jerry Lee Lewis. And if you'll notice, Jerry Lee's got a Band-Aid on his cheek, which is probably normal for Jerry Lee. And look at this. Here's the Killer playing guitar, and here's Ray playing the piano. Here's Ray and the Little Killer. Now this was put on the Atomic Beat magazine back years ago. And does anybody know who Little Killer is? Who?
Wesley.
I do.
Wesley Pryor. Helen knows. It's her son. All right. Ray's getting ready to get in his Cadillac and take off, I guess. But Ray actually skydived. I got another picture of him lying on the ground in the skydiving uniform. And what I didn't know until I talked to Joanne, that he had a pilot's license. And Stanley told me a little story about that one day when Ray went to take his solo flight. I'll just tell this one for you. Ray wanted Stanley to go with him, and Ray said, "Oh, buddy, I ain't getting in that plane with you." And he said Ray came over and he had those wings going like that. He said he didn't think he'd ever come down the line, but he made it with us. Well, no wonder Ray once flew under the Whitport Bridge. He's not the only one, but he did it too. We've had some really good pilots going to Whitport Bridge because none of them have crashed. All right. This just about concludes the PowerPoint presentation. We're going to do some interviews in a minute. But I want to do some thank yous here. I want to thank McCracken County Public Library for putting this thing on. I want to thank Bobby Wrinkle. These are her programs. And Bobby approached me a year ago and said, "It's about time she was doing a program." And she said, I'd done some on Ray in the last program, about 10 minutes. So Bobby said, "Let's do something on somebody famous in Paducah. How about Rockin' Ray Smith?" And I said, "Well, Bobby, I did some on him about a year ago, and I don't know if I can get enough material to do a program besides that. I'm just not sure we draw a crowd." So, Bobby, I think is thinking I will never listen to you again. I want to thank Jay and Matt for the production, and Ray's sister Joanne Kane. Thanks, Joanne. You gave me. Joanne and I spent 2 afternoons on her porch, and it was great. Ray's cousin Helen, husband Bill, and their son Wesley Pryor. Ray's nephew Dwight Simmons, who I spent one afternoon with. Keith Baumgardner, who I spent an afternoon with, and Keith used to be a bass player with Ray up in Canada. Charlie Terrell, Ray's manager, whom I have to tell you, last Saturday, it was noon when I got on with Charlie. I got him out of his pajamas to meet me at Ruby Tuesdays. Charlie gave me some really wonderful information, and Charlie and I have become good friends in a very short while. I want to thank Stanley Walker, Ray's longtime guitarist. He's been invaluable. I spent one whole afternoon with him, and Dwayne and Rick and I went up, and we just had a great session that we probably couldn't play here, but it was fun. I want to thank D. Wayne the Brain Spees, local DJ in Paducah years ago, who probably had the largest gathering or listening audience in this whole area ever. Special thanks to Steve Lester. I couldn't have done this program without Steve and all the stuff he gave me. I drove to Owensboro one Sunday afternoon, and Steve and I sat down, 3 hours? Man, that was great. Steve brought both those coats and put these posters together for us, so thank you, Steve. Laurel Black of Paducah Sun, who interviewed me on the way home from Sykeston and put a great article together in the Paducah Sun. It was all correct. The grammar was correct. All the details, she did her research. I sent her an email and I said, "Thank you, Laura. That is just so unusual for an article to be that good and that correct." Thank you to Todd Hatton at WKLS. There's Todd. Todd interviewed me Thursday morning for a promo. Stanley and I are going up to see Todd a week from Friday at 11 o'clock, and the show is called what? Sounds Good. Sounds Good. Todd is going to play rock and ray music, and then Stanley and I are going to talk to Todd in between the records, and that's going to be a good 2-hour program. So if you get a chance, listen in. I know Stan did a good job. Most of all, I want to thank everybody for being here, because without you all, there just wouldn't even have been a show. So with that, what we're going to do now, Dwayne and Stanley and I are going to do a little talking, and I'm going to let you all get some insight into who Ray Smith really was. Y'all ready? Y'all ready to tell
Let's
us?
ready to go, Tom.
You ready to tell some rock and roll stories, man?
I haven't talked about him in a long time.
Tell us how you first met Ray and how you started singing, playing.
First, you want all of it? This is part.
Give me the short version on the front and the long version
When
on
I
the
met
end.
Ray,
Yeah.
well, I'd been working in gospel music, playing for Dottie Rambo. I call her Sister Dottie, Brother Bucky. That guitar you seen that when I was young, she bought that for me. Wish I had it. But after I left Dottie Rambo and Bucky, why I was down here in Paducah, staying with my Uncle James Appleton, out of work. He said he knew this guy named Ray Smith. I was sitting out on the picnic table cleaning my guitar. My uncle came out and said, "Go with me just a minute." And I went over to Metropolis, Illinois, and I've seen all these cars and all these people. I never seen it like that. Opened the door and the Rockin' and Ray was going to town. I didn't know him, I hadn't been around rock and roll music, never played it. So I went up there and Mr. Appleton, he said, "Would you listen to this boy play guitar?" And they were still playing, and they started tearing down their equipment. And I told my uncle, I said, "This man ain't gonna listen to me. I don't even know what's going on. I can't play that stuff." So he let James Albert Webb let me plug my guitar in his amp, and I sat down there and I played the Blue Echo, Chet Atkins number called Blue Echo. Well, you might say Ray hard me on the spot. Here's what happened. You want me to tell what happened?
Yeah.
Well, he took me with him then. Ray did. I didn't even go back home. I went with Ray. Big Cadillac, all that stuff. That was something to me. Out of peaceful Valley, Kentucky. So I was uptown. So first thing he does, he's trying to show me off. He stopped at Twin Gables. Now, son, I was really out of place there. Because I hadn't even been playing hillbilly music. I've been playing gospel music. I do all the gospel.
I didn't know you was going to tell that.
I asked you, I don't know.
Go ahead.
So we didn't tarry very long in there because I'm telling you, I'm discouraged. But he got me up. Ray got me up and wanted everybody to hear me. So after that, we went to Ray's house. And that was my home from then on. I get kind of emotional talking about that, but he said, "I'm going to give you $3 a night, a place to stay, and I'm going to buy your food. In other words, you stay here with me, and I'll take care of you," because I had nobody to take care of me. I was on my own. And I was uptown. $3 a night, got my food paid for, my clothes, everything. And see where I am now. And then finally he raised me up to $10 a night. Oh, I was really uptown. Then I got a room at the Broadview Hotel. Oh, man. I stayed at the Broadview Hotel, had my own place at the hotel, and later on, of course, I got me a car. I better stop after all that mess. That's enough. That's how I met Ray Smith.
Let me ask you another thing. Tell us about the popularity of Ray in Hollywood and Las Vegas. Give us just a short
Okay,
thing.
I'll make it short as I can.
All right.
But, well, it was just unreal. I just never seen anything like I never seen a performer do like Ray Smith. I know people probably think because I work with him, I'm just saying that, but he got those movie stars. You look out there and you see James Stewart, sitting there. And he was dancing with Janet Leigh, and I thought, oh, my Lord. And what was that question you asked me?
I think you answered it.
Okay. As long as I answered.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you one more when we're in this vein. You had told me what Ray did in his room in the wee hours when he was kind of down. Tell us about that.
Which was about 7 days a week.
Yeah. Well, tell us.
It was just party, you know.
Yeah.
Well, he was playing Hank Williams songs and reading the Bible. That's soul.
Yep.
That's what he was, a soul man.
Dwayne?
Yes, sir.
I understand that you and Dwight Simmons and Rudy Elliott went with the band. We hadn't figured out Stanley went or not yet.
I talked to Charlie a while ago.
Okay,
Stanley, you were there.
good. You were there, Stanley.
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah, you were there at Rockin' Robin.
When we did
Yep.
Rockin' Robin.
Oh, yeah.
So they all went down
Yes.
and to cut Rockin' Robin, what, 3 more songs. And Dwight told me he drove, and I said, man, I'm sure glad you drove. Or we probably wouldn't have had Rockin' Robin. But tell us that story about.
Well, you know, it's the first time I ever went to Nashville with them, and to the best of my knowledge now, of course, we would work a while in the hotel room and going through music and stuff. Then we'd go to Printer's Alley a while, and Rudy Elliott used to be chief of police here in Paducah, and he pretty well kept Ray Smith on a even keel for a long time, you know. And so during the night, all of a sudden, Ray Stevens walked in. He was the session leader back then, and he just did rock. I had the A-Rap. I'm getting into you now.
Hey, you're not going to tell that part you told me.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I will.
No.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's not too bad. I mean, it would have been in the 60s, but now it's not too bad. And so Ray Stevens walked through the door in his jeans and his Levi's and his Wranglers. I guess he had Levi's on then. And he had to go. And he walked right straight to the bathroom, never kept talking, and just went ahead about his business and just embarrassed me to death. First time I'd ever left Fremont, you know. But we worked all night there, and we had a big discussion, and finally Charlie corrected it for us a while ago, whether or not you were there. There were times that you would go down there, and if you didn't belong to their local musicians union, you could not be on the sessions. But it was Ray Stevens. We warmed up Boots Randolph's horns, and then he tells me that the thing was set up in like, Ray was in the center of the studio, the band was over in 1/3 of it, correct?
Yep. Backup singers.
The backup singers, which was Margie Singleton and her group, and he and I and Rudy Elliott was over in the other corner clapping. Yep. I do not remember that. And I wasn't drinking either. I just don't remember it. We had a big time.
If you listen to Rockin' Robin, see if you can hear Dwayne clapping. he was hopefully he was clapping with the drums.
I was really just a tag along. You know, I was just an old disc jockey but Ray Smith was our favorite person when we did the New Year's Eve show. Our boss at the radio station was super smart, and he figured that the children had been in their families' houses and couldn't do nothing through Christmas, and so he hired Ray Smith to come into the Civic Center, and it was a good night. We put 1,158 people in the JC Civic Center, and Ray Smith and Stanley did it. This man had big time. And you know, through all of Ray's productive years, I think if it hadn't been for Stanley, he wouldn't have made it to him. And I guarantee, no, I don't. I really believe that. I really do believe that. He was always there and always solid. He was the number 2 man. It's a lot easier to be number 2, isn't it? I went with him to the Top Cat Club one night. And I remember this was before we have the music situations we have in our automobiles now. It was in a big old black Packard, you remember? And they drug out this little old 45 RPM record player, and I just knew it wasn't going to work, but it did. And y'all practiced on a song all the way to Marion, Illinois. and Ray and I could have a lot of fun. And all of a sudden, there was a big old truck driver came in there, and I was a little bit skinny guy then. I was short, too. And I followed him. I went into the bathroom. He came in there, and I talked him out of his coveralls, and they were about 4 times too big for me. And I went out there, and we did Long Tall Texan on stage.
Oh, man.
And it wasn't exactly proper, but it was fun, you know. And after that, when I went down, the owner of the club came over and said, "Come here, do you want to talk to you?" And he offered me, there was a guy from Vegas there, and that story goes on different. But anyway, I always had a big time with Rockin' Ray Smith. And yeah, so we had a good time.
Hey, Stanley, tell us the jail story down. The jail story. You know, you've told me that you know it was down south somewhere.
Easy.
You don't.
Easy. I've got
Stanley doesn't have any idea where he was when this
No,
happened,
I didn't.
but he's going to tell us the story.
We was on the road. The road was something, wasn't it, Charlie? I want y'all to give this man right here a big hand. He's the backbone of Ray Smith. Started him out. He even put up with me a long time, didn't you? Still doing it. Yeah, but what'd you say?
The jail story, somewhere
Oh,
down
the
south.
jail story. Oh, well, we was somewhere, you know. That makes me think of another, and I can't tell them all.
Okay.
Going through this little town, and Ray gets stopped, which we got stopped about all the time. But this guy, Ray Smith, I just can't hardly describe him, and I know Charlie can't either because he was so special. He's wilder than anybody I ever seen in my life, but he had the biggest heart of anybody I ever seen. We'd be out on the road somewhere, and he'd pick up a soldier boy, and I've seen him reach in that wallet and find a $100 bill and give it to him. Take him 20 miles out of the way. That's Ray Smith. And so, about to get lost. Anyway, we got stopped in this little town. Of course, Ray had too many. So I know we all go down to the jailhouse. I said, "Oh, my Lord, we're going to have to sit in this car for, I don't know what we're going to do. We're up there close to Canada, so probably Indiana." Well, they lock him up, see. Well, it wasn't long. We was all, the band just sick, you know. But anyway, he's poor long Ray's got a guitar in there. Still got his bottle, too. And he had the jail people, the people over the jail, the officers, everybody was trying to get in that cell, you know. They had a party, and Ray came out and got on the wheel, and we went on. That's just one, folks. I wish I could tell some of them others.
Hey,
You know, since we're all here.
you got to tell the story of when you broke your back,
Oh, mercy.
and you got to tell them what Ray said to you when he was laying in that car.
Well, it was coming in from, I believe we'd been in West Frankfort. And he had this big old long Cadillac, you know. And, our drummer then was Gene Rayburn, and he was in the front with Ray. And that little road out here going towards Wycliffe, about 5 miles out, we was coming in, and I just raised up. I was in the back seat by myself, and I made me some pimento cheese sandwiches. I'd eat them, you know, eating. I raised up and I said, "Ray, slow her down just a little bit, man." I said, "We got some bridges to cross here and stuff. We ain't room to pass or meet." And that speeded him up. And so I raised up again, and I seen the cab of this green 51 Chevrolet pickup truck. And, you know, for a second, I thought, well, it's over. You know, we're done. Somehow he missed that truck. And we slid down this road, the highway there, and the car caught hold and flew in the air around like this and landed over in a slew of water, a big bank, I guess high as this building. And so when the car finally stopped, I knew I was done because I thought blood was coming out of, I thought I'd had it. And I was just carrying on something fierce, And so Ray and Gene jumped on top of the car, jumping around up there, and get out there, Stanley. There's snakes in there. You're going to drown. Because it was water I felt coming in on me, see. So finally somebody came by and found out what was going on, come there, called the ambulance. Whew. And it messed my back up bad. Of course, by the grace of God, it didn't bother me that much. I mean, now, I can get around. But it like to done me in. But he was something. Get out of there, boy. You're going to drown.
Tommy, why don't we talk about the mirror in Illinois?
Oh, yeah. Well, I found out the other day that Bill Pryor was the other guy that went with us. We couldn't figure out who it was.
He's here, too. Bill's
Yep.
back there.
Yeah, Bill's here. And Dwayne called me and he said, why don't you go with Stanley and Ray and me? We're going up to do a show in Marion. So we went up there and so I was supposed to take my camera and take pictures. So we got in there to the guard and the guard said, you can't take the camera in. And I said, okay. I said, well, the warden said we had permission. He said, I don't care what the warden says, you're not taking it in. Here comes Ray. Comes over and gets into this argument with the guard. And the guard points at him and he says, buddy, you get back over there and shut your mouth or you're all going home. So either Stanley or Bill, somebody came over and got him. So then they took us through in little groups. This was maximum security prison at the time. So you go in this, they'd raise this gate and you go in here, 3 or 4 of us, and they'd close this one, open this, and you go. So they told us that when we got out to go left and go to the cafeteria and eat breakfast. So we all got out of there and we started turning left and go eat breakfast and looked over the right. Ray was down in the gym playing basketball with the inmates. But he put on a whale of a show, didn't he?
Yeah.
I was going to sing 2 songs that day, but when Ray Smith got up, I said, there's no way I'm following that, let me tell you.
He kept getting out toward the edge of the stage.
Yeah.
And they told us, no, don't get out there over 6 feet close to the stage. These guys are bad, They make old Ray any difference.
Yeah.
No.
Just kept going.
Well, what else, Dwayne?
I want to try to get them to do something they don't want to do. Okay? I guess I've been good at that, didn't I?
What's that?
We spent a whole night in the Irving Cobb Hotel in the ballroom one night cutting John Green commercials. Y'all remember John Green? Well, there's only one of them come out good. And you remember, can you sing it?
Oh, man, no.
Try it. Tommy can.
Dwayne can sing the first part, and you jump in there like you did the other day.
Come on along. Do your John Green stories today.
They got the buys, they're the best in the USA. They got
Socks and shoes and shirts and pants and for the ladies.
They didn't leave no chance. Is that right?
Yeah,
Was that right on that?
Yeah, for the ladies. Anyway, it was a big deal. Y'all remember, don't you?
Yeah.
It was a regional commercial. And there was a lot of drinking going on that night.
I didn't see much of that.
I didn't either. I was But anyway, we had a big time. They did like 7 or 8 of them, and it was an all-night deal.
Well, while I'm still talking,
Well, I've got something
I'll
here.
hush after this word. I'll hush for a while. But I just want to tell you what it means to me in my heart right here to see all you folks. Everybody, it's just so wonderful to see folks I hadn't seen. And I grew up with you, see, and everybody out there in the lobby, I know just about everybody. And it just does my heart good to see you folks here. I just want you to know that from the bottom of my heart. I love every one of you folks. I mean that.
Now, Stanley, the other day, Dwayne and I and Rick came up, and you gave Dwayne your only copy of the Sun Years record. Well, Charlie Terrell has brought you a copy, so you'll have one too.
You're right. Thank you, brother.
So Charlie's presenting this to you.
Oh, folks, thank you, Charlie. He's my friend forever. Oh, Lord, I can't say enough about him.
I met
It
Charlie.
seemed like it just kind of took me in, and watched over me. That's what it feels like to me. Because I was just a little boy, 18 or 19, I think, 17 or 18, somewhere along. But thank you, Charlie, for that album. I wanted Dwayne to have that, but now I want to show you the folks. Tommy was telling about this album, and it's got this, you never see this in a CD. It's got a little book, and it tells all about Ray's life, what Tommy told here today, a lot of it. And all of it, yeah, a whole lot more. You got some in there about me even. That was really surprising. And, yeah, there's some pictures in there of me. Oh, I'm proud of that. But then, thank you, Charlie. Thank you. But folks, you ought to get that album. You can get it at Ernest Tubb Record Shop in Nashville. That's where Kay and I, my wife. By the way, would you give my wife a nice hand? Stand up, Kay. Stand up, Kay. Stand up, Kay. Thank you. Boy, I could tell, she could tell you stories on me, but she wouldn't do that.
Folks, we're going to have to wrap it up.